So it's all to play for still.
I think so. Do you want to bet against us?
Hi, villains, and welcome to For the Love of Paul McGrath podcast. Just said I'd jump on again because today, well, actually, I suppose over the last 24 hours, we've had a tentative link to a right back, somebody that hasn't obviously been mentioned yet, in conjunction with Aston Villa prior to these links. It's been linked by Bild, the German newspaper, that but Aston Villa and a host of teams from Serie A, Inter, AC Milan, and Juventus are all interested in signing Thomas Meunier, the Belgian right back, who currently plays with Dortmund. And I thought it was an interesting one because not only did I want to look into the player, but I just wanted to look into something that a lot of people have been saying recently, myself included, about maybe what type of fullback does Unai Emery want. It's a question that none of us can answer, and we're going on what we've seen previously, I suppose, really from this manager. So what I've done is I've done a little bit of a deep dive. We'll take a look at it. We're going to take a look at Thomas Meunier first. Then we've done a little bit of a deep dive of Unai Emery's right backs since his winning days at Sevilla, just to take a look at it to see, is he that rigid as maybe we've all fallen into the trap. I know I've said it before. I've just presumed he wanted to play like he did at Villarreal with this inverted right back to play in as a three. And is he as rigid as that, or has he been as rigid as that throughout the course of his career? So I wanted to take a look at that as well. But Thomas Meunier is a really interesting character, really interesting link, should I say. Reason being is because he's somebody who's fallen out of favour at Dortmund. New manager whose name I can never really pronounce has come in there, and he hasn't really seen an awful lot of game time at Dortmund this year. He played 16 times for them this season, and most of those came in the first half of the season, to be honest with you. So it's not like he had much to do with their running. But he and 10 of those were in the league. 10 were in the league, 2 were in the national cups, in the German Cup, and then he played 4 games in Europe as well this season. So 16 appearances in all for Dortmund. The year previous, he had 26 appearances, scoring 2 goals, and the year previous to that, he had 33 appearances, scoring 1 goal as well. So the reason that I wanted to talk about him is he's played under Unai Emery before. So this would be more like a reuniting of the players, of the player and manager again. So Unai Emery is really interested in him. He was previously, 2 years ago, this guy was rated at about 35 million, potentially going to the likes of Manchester United as a right back. In the 2 to 3 years since he was linked with Manchester United, he has had some injuries. We will look at that in a moment because I do want to look at his injury history as well. But he's fallen so far out of favor with this new manager. I think that there seems to be kind of a clash between the two of them. Dortmund are looking to move him on for somewhere in the region between 3 and 5 million, which I think Aston Villa should and absolutely could be involved in this in this transfer if this rumor is true. So played under Unai Emery for Paris Saint-Germain. He played under Unai Emery in years 2016-17 and 2017-18 when Emery first came to Paris Saint-Germain. He actually bought him. He bought him from Club Brugge in the Belgian league. So he brought him to Paris Saint-Germain. And during that period of time, he played 36 games across all. In 16-17, he played 36 games, scoring 2 goals. In 17-18, he played 34 games, scoring 5 goals. So he's an attacking fullback. He can actually play wing back. Sometimes he's even played right midfield as well. And just to give you the full roundup as well, for Belgium, he's played 62 times and he scored 8 goals as well. So this guy knows his eggs at right back. And you know, we're looking for somebody to come in there and to obviously to push Matty Cash. And I think a lot of us just kind of push Matty Cash, maybe even be better than him, maybe even start over him. There was times last season that Ashley Young was starting over Matty Cash. And, you know, so having that kind of rotation at fullback, I think, is something that Unai Emery likes. We saw it with Dina and Alex Moreno on the other side of the field as well. These two guys complement each other. Like so Meunier has done more in his career than Matty Cash, but then again, he is older. He's going to be 32 very soon. I don't think his age is a barrier to Unai Emery signing him. Unai Emery is okay with signing older players. He did it at Villarreal as well, and he brought Dani Alves back to he brought Dani Alves to Paris Saint Germain then as well. He was no spring chicken when he brought him, so I don't think he's got any aversion to bringing players, aging players into teams as long as he feels he can get something out of them. And look, he kept Ashley Young, or well, he didn't keep him because Ashley Young is near, but he kept putting Ashley Young in the team, and Ashley Young was an older player as well, a much older player, 6 years older than this guy's. Ashley Young's going to be 38 in July, so it's an interesting one. Let's take a little look at some of the statistics for him. So as I say, there's Thomas Meunier, currently of Borussia Dortmund. So I just changed up some of my colors here. I don't know whether you can see them a bit better. A couple of people have reached out to me to say that they were unable to see the color scheme because the background is too faint. So hopefully by blocking up the background there, you guys can see that a bit better. But looking at his statistics, he's very rounded. I'm not going to go into into all of them at the moment, but he's a very rounded defender. Now, as I say, he did only play 16 games last season, and the season before he played 26 games. So straddling 2 seasons, he's only played 42 games over the last 365 days. I did a rough calculation of this, and I think it comes out that he's played 29 games over that period of time in all competitions. So just bear that in mind when you're looking at these statistics. But saying that, a lot of these numbers are per 90 statistics, so you can take it that these are extrapolated out over those 29 games. So it does give enough of a sample set to be able to see where he will be on average over the course of a season. And when you look at it in the tackle, he's very good, coming in the 87 percentile. Blocks, interceptions, all really good. The percentage of dribblers tackled, I think, is a very important statistic to look at for a right back or for any back, a full back as well, and he comes right up there with 63% of those tackled as well. Aerial duels, if we're talking about this guy slowing up, and if he's getting a small bit older, and if we are going to stick with that inverted right back at 6'2" and having an aerial duel percentage of 60%, that's quite that is quite impressive, I think, for any right back, regardless of where they come from. And also, I wanted to highlight as well the tackles in defensive third and tackles in the middle third as well. He's right up there with fullbacks across the top 5 leagues in Europe. So while he has played fewer games than Matty Cash, I presume he has played fewer games than Matty Cash and Ashley Young over the course of last 365 days. The per 90 statistics are what we look at here, and that's telling us that he's doing this day in, day out, week in, week out, on average over the course of the time that he plays. When we look at his pass attempts, another person who's comfortable with the ball. Remember, we were talking previously about Unai Emery wants people who are comfortable on the ball. This guy is certainly comfortable on the ball. Pass attempts at 66, much higher than anything Matty Cash has had, and much higher than anything that Ashley Young had last season. So you're talking about 12 extra pass attempts per game than Ashley Young, and you're talking about 26 extra pass attempts per game than Matty Cash, which is huge. It's nearly 50% extra on top of what Matty Cash has been doing per game. So if we need to overload that right hand side, if the left hand side isn't working, this guy isn't going to be a flyer. He's not going to fly up and down the wing. He will get up and down the wing, but he's not going to be that pace option like we would have in Alex Moreno. But this guy can get there. He can get his foot in the ball, and he's comfortable with doing that. Now, his pass completion comes in at 75%, in and around the same as the 2 incumbents that we have, Matty Cash and Ashley Young, at the moment as well. So one thing I will say here is that you can look at the numbers, you can go, oh, his pass completion is low, it's only in the 41 percentile. But can anyone hand on heart put their hand up here and say, well, we noticed Matty Cash and Ashley Young were giving the ball away throughout the course of last season? And I could safely say we'll only get a handful of people who say, actually, yeah, I was disappointed with how much they gave the ball away, because I don't think it really stood out for me anyway. It didn't stand out. And if this guy is coming in with the same pass completion ratings as those guys, well then, for me, if I didn't notice it last year, I would hope not to notice it this year again. Shot creating actions, key passes, goal creating actions, all really strong for somebody who plays at right back. The specifically, the key passes and the shot creating actions coming in there in the top 30% in all of Europe's top 5 leagues. And remember, the value for this guy is somewhere between 3 million and 5 million. So if you're getting somebody in the top quartile or the top third of all right backs in the top 5 leagues in Europe for 3 to 5 million, there's an opportunity cost there, and I think Aston Villa will look for that. And I think Unai Emery is comfortable working within those demographics as well. Also, looking at the ball recoveries, far and away outweighs what our current incumbents have as well. So without getting bogged down too much in the numbers, you can see there the graph. He comes out ahead of the guys in more or less everything other than progressive passes. Ashley Young had a higher progressive pass rate than Thomas Meunier. And he comes out in more or less either the same or higher than any of the guys there as well. So it's just an interesting one. I said I'd take a look at him. But also remember, is Unai Emery going to play this inverted right back? We've spoke about it an awful lot. Myself and Dan Bardell talking about it in relation to Tyler Adams, who I haven't done a podcast on yet. But I was talking to him, and I said, talking to Dan, and I said, you know what? Maybe Tyler Adams could be somebody that could come in to be an auxiliary right back, specifically someone who can tuck in, because Tyler Adams played a lot of his career in Leipzig and with the men's national team for the US at right back too. So that's something that I was thinking. But when I look back at Unai Emery's time since Sevilla, I suppose, really at Sevilla and since Sevilla, and we look at some of the right backs that he's had, like we go down through the years here in 13-14, he had Koke, Cicinho, and not that Cicinho, a different Cicinho, and a guy by the name of Diogo Figueiredo. And they had those between 2013 2015, with Koke playing the majority of time at right back. He was 6 foot, I think, if memory suits me right, but he was a right back because sometimes he was pushed up into that right midfield position. And if you go and you watch the 2016 Europa League final where Sevilla played against Liverpool, Koke actually plays in that right midfield position, and Mariano, who you can see there as well, he brought in the Brazilian player Mariano. He played at right back that day. So remember last season we saw two right backs being played by Unai Emery before. Or last season, well, we've seen that before, and we saw that in the Europa League final against Liverpool back in 2016. So I think it's fair to say that he didn't play an inverted right back then. Now, Koke, I'm sure, shuffled in, but he wasn't this big hulking. What we're kind of considering is it would be an inverted right back, if that makes sense. Moving on to PSG. Thomas Meunier in 16-17 was his right back, and 17-18 Thomas Meunier and Dani Alves. Dani Alves came into Paris Saint-Germain then as well in a free transfer as well. Dani Alves, I don't think anybody could accuse him of being an inverted fullback. Definitely a head down, go forward player. And Thomas Meunier, from what I've seen of him as well, while maybe if he is slowing up, could move inside the small a bit more, be a bit more defensively minded, because he has all the defensive attributes. But he is a wide player, a wing back. He's played right back, and at times he has played right midfield as well. And then we move on to Arsenal. Lichtsteiner, Bellerin, Carl Jenkinson. None of those really, I think you could call them inverted fullbacks. And then Cedric came in, and Bellerin in 2019, 2020. So once again, I'm not really seeing this traditional inverted fullback from Unai Emery. When he gets to Villarreal, yes, absolutely 1,000,000%. One fight comes in there, and he was a super part of that team. He was pivotal. In fact, he was pivotal to that team in how he played at right back. And I think Unai Emery even said it himself. He also had Mario Gaspar in 2021 as his understudy. Mario Gaspar now playing for Watford, if my memory is correct. Then in 21-22, he had one fight, and he also had Serge Aurier in there as well. So playing for Villarreal. So Serge Aurier, I don't know, would anybody, maybe, wouldn't really categorize him as an inverted fullback either. So I just said I'd throw that out there. I don't know whether he wants to play that way. And I know a lot of people are saying about Ezri Konsa might go to fullback, and he absolutely could. But with this rumor, it's what got me thinking. He's played with him before. He's managed him before. And realistically, when you look back at the times that he's had success, it's not really been that inverted fullback, save for at Villarreal. Now, I don't know how he's going to play next season, and if he plays with an inverted fullback, he'll get 2 thumbs up for me. But if he finds a way to continue to play like we did last season when we didn't have that inverted fullback, he'll get 2 thumbs up from me anyway. I'm not married to a system. I couldn't care less. W's, wins, goals, clean sheets. That's all I'm looking for. That's really all I'm looking for. And I think everybody else is the same. Let's go to some of your comments there as well. Couple of guys talking about Kudos. I haven't seen anything to do with Kudos today. A lot of people saying he's heading to Brighton. I'm not sure. Philly D says he doesn't rate Meunier. That's, as I say, I haven't. I think realistically from a value point of view, he is definitely somebody that I would have no problem with signing whatsoever. Let me see there if we go down through the rest of these. Couple of people saying they're disillusioned, they're not happy with the transfer window so far. I just think that there's just so much splashed out. Look, and I'm probably guilty. Well, I am, I suppose. Call me guilty of it, doing shows on players that were linked to it. But it's just I like looking at players. I like looking at seeing how they fit in. I like going back and looking at the trends of these players. Like looking back at Emery's right backs. Oh, Emery signed him previously from Club Brugge before to play with Paris Saint-Germain. Maybe there is something in this, and it comes from a publication like Bild. And Villa will probably have 20 to they could even have 25, 30 transfer targets this season. We'll never know them, but the paper will never refuse ink from a journalist either, and the tweet machine will never refuse a tweet from a journalist with regards to players that are linked to us. But I suppose it's just for us to kind of pick out if they do sign for us, would they be any good, and maybe what is the what's the thinking behind maybe being linked with these players, and that's why I'm looking at this guy here too as well. So I mentioned previously there that Thomas Meunier has a small bit of an injury history. And I wouldn't be jumping off any bridges yet, anyway, people. But we take a look at this injury list because he over the course of the last 7 seasons he's missed 74 games. Now, saying that, if we go back through the last 7 seasons, he's played 36 games, 34 games, 31 games, 27 games, 33, 26, and then 16 this season. So it's not like he's been completely missing. And we will have Matty Cash, and I think for 3 to 5 million at 32 years of age, a lot of these injuries here haven't kept him out for a very long time, save for the muscle injury at the end of last season, 6 games, and a torn tendon, which kept him out for 11 games. Some of them have been niggles. He's been out for 1 game here, 2 games here. He fractured his cheekbone, which I don't think anyone could really call injury prone with regards to that. A lot of these ones are I suppose kind of injuries of war that you get when you're a professional athlete, although he has succumbed to some more going back as far as 16, 17. But he still played a decent amount of games in his career. Like when you look at his career, he's played 455 games. So it's not exactly like he's a complete another sick note. So I wouldn't let this turn you off. If somebody's coming in for 3 to 5 million and they're 32 years of age, you're probably going to be looking at them being a rotational aspect alongside Matty Cash without breaking the bank. And to be honest with you, I think it might be a shrewd enough signing. He's got a very good CV. He fits what we're looking to do if we're not playing that inverted full back, as I said. And he's a very reputable player with a really good CV, as I said before, that Unai Emery has managed also. So he's going to know, he's going to have the inside track, he's going to be able to talk to people, and also players do medicals. If there's anything comes up in the medicals for a year or two, this guy I think could be a pretty decent understudy or pretty decent backup or pretty decent rotation, whatever Unai Emery has in his head with regards to where Matty Cash goes. I think that I can understand why we would be linked with him. I could understand if we were to sign him, why we would sign him for sure. And he's got the pedigree based on what he's done in the game. 62 caps for Belgium and playing for teams such as Paris Saint-Germain, Borussia Dortmund, and potentially soon to be Aston Villa will be massive, massive clubs on his CV as well. So I'm just gonna. Do I have anything else? No, I don't have any other slides there. So come back to some of your comments there. Lee Evans says we need an upgrade on Cash, in my opinion. Something about Cash's laddish attitude has come and stuck. That's come and stuck. I don't know. Does he have a laddish attitude? I'm open to correction on this. I don't follow any of the players on Instagram or anything like that. I always find that he's pretty laid back. Maybe I think that's what I would say about him. But I wouldn't consider him to have a kind of a laddish attitude like he's out. And I don't know whether he is or not. Would he be out in the town all the time or anything like that? I don't know. If we were to upgrade Matty Cash, I don't think anybody would. Like if we were to upgrade, there's probably only 3 or 4 players in the team that I think people would be surprised if we could get an upgrade on. I think most players in our team until we start winning leagues and trophies are upgradable. And so I agree with you. And potentially maybe somebody for 3 to 5 million. You see, Unai Emery and Meunier are going to be tasked with doing this as well. They're going to do it their way with players they think can fit into their system. And I don't think that they're going to be swayed by obviously, they'll have to work within the transfer budget. Don't get me wrong. But I don't think they're going to be swayed by, oh, well, we'll sign a fella because he's 40, 50 million. If they can get a fella for 3 or 5 that they think could do a job next season or the year after, well, then I think they'll sign him. At Paris Saint-Germain, he brought in Dani Alves, and I think he's comfortable in working with older players as well and eking that last little bit out of them. But I hope he is if he does sign some of those players too. Where are we? John Steele says Emery's. Oh, come up. Emery's one signing so far has transformed our team. Trust in Emery. He's not making any signings for the sake of numbers. He'll sign the right players. Do you know what's really interesting? When I look back at the squad, at the size of squad that he's tended to work with previously, I know that you hear this the whole time. Oh, he likes to work with a smaller squad or condensed squad, but he really does. You go back and you look at any of those teams over those years, and squad sizes seem to be like they're not padded. I'm not saying they're small or anything like that, but they're not overly padded. Like you're not walking into a Chelsea of 2022 with about 14,000 players inside there. He's got players who are in there functional for functional reasons, in there for cover, and that's kind of the way he plays. He seems to operate. So that is a good point as well. The last player they brought in, or the only player he's brought in for us, has transformed us down that left wing and gives us something different than what we had in Luka Dean, and has been really profitable for us since he's come in as well. So yeah, and there's Sean Garrett, he says, class player, I'm all for this signing and see him rotated with Cash. And then Adam comes in and says he's no better than Cash or even Young. That's the issue for me. Well, statistically, he's better than both of them. And arguably in his international, well, he's better than Cash in his arguably within his club career and in his international career. The problem is he's 32 years of age, and as I showed, he has some injury history as well. That's what kind of has me apprehensive, is the injury history, along with the fact that he's fallen out with a manager at Dortmund. Is the motivation factor there? One of the things you see in the newspapers is there's been a lucrative offer from Aston Villa. Is it a payday for him at 32 years of age coming to the Premier League? They're the kind of apprehensions that I have here, but they're all intangibles that I can't answer, and I won't be able to answer unless you actually speak to him and get him under truth serum. So I think for me that's always something that you have to have in the back of your mind. Is he durable enough to play 38 games or whatever, circa 50 games if Matty Cash gets injured at the start of the season? And then second of all, what are the motivations for coming to the Premier League at 32 years of age after you've fallen out with your manager? I think that's probably something to go by as well. Rod Humble says, seems pointless to me, may as well have kept Young. Well, Young is 38. And father time, I can completely understand why Ashley Young wasn't kept. I would love, like I said it, I would like to have him to have kept him as well, to have him, he covers both flanks, left or right back. I still think we would have brought in another right back anyway if we kept him. But we didn't, and he's 38 years of age, and it'll be interesting to see where his next move is. And And yeah, I can't disagree with it. Like I can't disagree with the fact that I would have liked to keep him, because I said it. I've tweeted it, said I would have liked to. And this is me. This is my come to Damascus moment of being somebody who was like, oh, we're playing Ashley Young at right back. I hope I never have to see him at right back. And then he goes away and he shoves both my feet right down my throat, because not only was it a foot and mouth situation for me when I came out with that. Now, granted, he hadn't played at right back for Aston Villa before that, but then when he did, obviously he's been sparkling. So, but yeah, look, I think at 38, it's a bit of a stretch to see how far. Like, if we've got concerns over a 32-year-old, we should have some concerns over a 38-year-old. And I know the injury histories are completely different, but I wish Ashley Young all the best. And maybe the door isn't closed to him coming back on a deal again later on in the season, later on in the transfer window. I don't know. I don't know. Like, I'm not. I suppose I'm not beating the drum for this guy, but I can seriously see why we would be linked for him, for the cost value, along with the output that he's had in his career, and the fact that Unai Emery has managed him already. I think he's going to have the inside track. When you manage someone, it's an awful lot easier to pick up the phone and say and to call somebody, or to be able to find out what their details are. What I mean by their details, maybe their physical details, or get in contact with them, see where they are, I suppose, kind of mentally and physically as well. So I'm now actually nearly even talking myself out of my other red flag of what are his motivations. I'm sure Unai Emery will know what his motivations are. Whether he can take them at face value or not is another thing. But I'm sure Unai Emery will know them, having managed him for 2 seasons previously and bringing him into the big time from Club Brugge to Paris Saint-Germain. So there are things there. And as I say, I'm completely convinced of myself left and right in this one. I don't know what to think of this transfer. I really don't. Where else are we with Steve asks, has he won any trophies? He has won League 1 in 2017, 18, 18, 19, 19 and 20. He was a Champions League runner-up in 1920. He won a ton with he won a ton with Paris Saint-Germain in 17, 18, 18, 19 and 19, 20. He won the Belgian Pro League in 15, 16 with Club Brugge. And yeah, as I say, he was a Champions League runner-up in 19, 20 with Paris Saint-Germain as well. He won the actually, wait a minute, what did he win with Dortmund? He won the Dutch Cup, the DFB Pokal. He won that with Dortmund in, what year was it? 2021. Yeah, so he's won a lot of cups, won 3 leagues, and 4 leagues, should I say, if you include the Belgian one as well. Yeah, so I suppose really, this is one we've been linked to it. This isn't one that I would have pulled out of the transfer bag if I was going to Monchi with my transfer bag. I wouldn't have pulled Thomas Meunier's name out of the bag for that. I think there are other players there, that younger players, as I say, but maybe Unai Emery is looking for that general inside there that he can trust, and like 32 isn't over the hill either. But as I say, I have actually said this quite a lot as well. Unai Emery will sign older players that people will think are underwhelming, and they may come in and do a job for a year or two because he knows them. He did it at Villarreal, he did it at Sevilla, he did it. He didn't really do it at Arsenal because I'm not quite sure what way the transfers went there. But it's something he did at Villarreal. And while I've said that we may not take his tactical setup of Villarreal and automatically parachute it into Aston Villa, and he hasn't done that so far, specifically with the back four setup, which worked brilliantly last season. We conceded very, very few goals. So, do we need that inverted fullback? May very well be the case that we do sign one. Maybe we sign 2. Maybe we sign Meunier and we sign someone else. Maybe we sign 2 people. Maybe we sign Meunier. Maybe Matty Cash goes. I don't know. There's a lot to be written yet, and I'd be surprised even if the full administration staff at the club weren't back from holidays just yet. I would imagine they're probably back next week, and we'll see the stuff ramp up and crank up from the point of view of transfers and more concrete transfer rumors. But I've rambled a bit at the end of this one. That's Thomas Meunier, as I say, came out of nowhere. A man who's got a very decent CV. Age is catching up with him. Injuries have caught up with him. He's worked with Unai Emery before. If he was coming in, I think excellent value at 3 to 5 million. I don't think that we can really kind of debate that. Well, I'm sure people could debate it, but I don't know would I be have my mind much for changing with the value that he would bring. But as I say, it's one that kind of came out of nowhere, and we'll see what happens, and we'll keep our finger to the pulse with this one. But thanks so much, everybody, for joining me on a Sunday afternoon. It's 9 o'clock here, and I want to just say thank you so much, and thank you so much for joining me all the time. Really, really appreciate your time, because I can take everything else from you guys, but I can't ever take. Oh, sorry, I can give whatever I have to give you guys, but I can never give you back the time that you spend watching the podcasts and listening to the podcasts and watching us on YouTube. So I really appreciate you guys for that, because somebody's time is the most precious asset they have, as I say. So thank you so much. And I'm going to leave it at that. So thanks for watching. Stay safe, stay healthy. We'll be back again very, very soon. And until then, all that's left to say is up the Villa.